The three of us are going to show you how to have more fun in your casual Commander games.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, the people who bring you videos every single day that you can support actually directly by going to Patreon. It lets us not include crappy mobile game ads and supports us directly for your money.
And everyone who supports us directly, we love them all as much as we can without making them uncomfortable. Obviously, if you want to support this channel while buying Magic cards, TCG Player is the best way to do that. Affiliate link in the description below. As long as you start with our affiliate link, you buy the same cards at the same price, and we get supported, and you have no clue how much that means to us.
Moxfield sponsors this entire channel. There's going to be an ad somewhere in the middle of the video, and you're not going to be able to guess where it is, although guesses are welcome and going to be incorrect. And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
Yes, so let's hop into this. This is, before I say anything about anything, any opinion I have, this video is 110% subjective. Fun cannot be quantified. It is different from person to person. This, in our experience, has been ways to have more fun, whether it be playing, whether it be deck building, or whatever. It's ways to just make the game feel more fun for both you and the players you're playing with.
Right. Amber, for example, has more fun attacking a piece of string and usually doesn't even go to commander, or sometimes she'll just lay on the battlefield. That's her case of fun. But everybody else doesn't really jive with that, and that's totally okay. She might not like this video, but she does like the chin scratches.
Yeah, and also when she plays commander, it's always stacks. And Amber, she doesn't care for opponents to have fun, and it's okay, Amber.
And she plays 12 lands in every deck. That was a running gag also in the comments. So we're going to actually give you tangible, real advice, not cat-related anymore, of how to have more fun, how to inject some more fun in your commander games, how to get rid of that stagnant feeling you might have.
So let's start in the game already. So we've picked our decks. We're doing that. We're going to be playing. We're at a table with three other people. It's a full pod. The first thing is obviously Rule Zero. The Rule Zero talk is simply determining what power level everyone is playing, what everyone expects out of the game, and making the game fun for everyone. If somebody says, I'm playing a pre-con, you know you shouldn't be bringing your CEDH deck to play that. Meet the power level, try and come to an understanding. Rule Zero talk is really important every single game.
I think if you get it right, there'll be less games that are ruined by miscommunication. Like, oh, you're playing Sol Ring and Signet on turn 1? I kind of thought we said that wasn't okay. But if you can vocalize some of this better in the Rule Zero talk, well, then I can eliminate some of the unfun stuff and maybe not even lead to you having to take more of these actions. But most likely, you have to. So I think another good tip is to play lightheartedly and not treat every decision like it's the most important thing in the world. Obviously, we're playing to win. I would advocate playing to win in every commander game. I think it's like kind of an important part of the game.
Yes, I agree. Playing to win is... You should be playing to win 99% of the game. I think that's a good way to look at it. Because there are times when games come to a head at the end and I don't choose to win. I think it's more fun if I let my opponent win. It's funnier if I kill BZ and just let this... Or it's funnier if I kill them and let BZ win. There's always stuff like that comes up. Yes, I agree. You 100% should always play to win. That's fun. Actually, a saying that I'm sticking with now is build for fun, play to win. I love that saying. It's perfectly encapsulates the commander format for me.
Yeah, I think another thing that could really bog down games is spending too much time in the tank. Kind of goes along with treating every decision like it's too important, but this is just like, maybe your deck has too many decision trees, or maybe this isn't the type of deck that you need to be playing in a 4 or a 5-player game when you're trying to get into 6 games in a night, and this deck only lets you get 2 games into the night. It's just, eventually, you got to make a choice. If the choice ultimately is arbitrary anyway, and there's no way to tell which line is better, please just skip the boring part. The fun part is make the decision.
Yeah, agreed. Like, you should play, you don't rush. Nobody's telling you to play as fast as you possibly can, make mistakes over and over again. But you should play a little, I would even say fast and loose. So faster and not like the fast and loosest, but you should play a little fast, a little loose. So like, you're going to make mistakes. And you should just not take that as a big deal. It's okay to make mistakes. And if you make those mistakes and play, 1, you'll learn from them, which is awesome. And 2, you'll get through more games. When you sit down for games of Commander, if you only get 1 game of Commander compared to playing maybe 3 or 4,
something's wrong.
And you're going to learn less. Like, if your whole goal is to make the right choices and learn how to make the right choices, and being in the tank helps you do that, sure, that can be true. But if you play 4 games and you get to make 4 times as many choices, you will learn a lot more from that.
Yeah, seriously, I promise you, more people do this than seem like it. Some people are skipping past this and like, no, I don't do this. Like, you might, actually. This is a real thing that I think almost every playgroup has to deal with.
Even BZ does it sometimes. I mean, BZ's not, like, guilty of it all the time. Like,
but I gotta, like, just point it out, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, okay.
BZ goes in especially because BZ plays a lot of wheel spinning decks, and they have a lot of decisions trees branches, so BZ sometimes goes in the tank. And usually I don't complain to BZ because BZ, 95% of the game is fast.
Yeah, my turns are usually like lightning fast.
Yeah, lightning fast, but then like there's like that that like last 5% where like 1 in 20 times the turn takes a long time, which is okay, but if you're doing that, try to avoid it.
Yeah, call people out and don't drown yourself in the tank.
Call people out, but don't do it in a mean way. It's never intended to be a bully way. Be like, hey, you're taking a little bit much time. We're just trying to have fun. Could you play a little faster?
Yeah, just like find a nice way to talk about it, and I think they should understand because it's pretty fair, especially when we're talking about everybody's entitled to the same amount of time in a game, give or take. So the next step is let friends play for themselves, but offer help if they kind of seem confused or they ask for it or they seem to need it. This is kind of something I like to chime in every once in a while. Maybe instead of, hey, can you play faster, I'll like suggest something. Or I'll say like, all right, what are you thinking? Like, what are we thinking here? Because it's just like, something's wrong. Something is kind of holding this game up. Let's figure it out together.
Yeah. For me, what a lot of this is if they're slow, that is one thing where you can help them find a play. When someone casts removal, if they ask what the biggest target is, you can say it. If even if they target when you think, like, hey, I think that's a bigger threat. That's all fine and dandy.
But no yelling or berating.
Or every single time. I think there are some players who every time any removal spells cast or any interaction happens, they tell them what they would do. It's like, you don't have to do that. Now, some friends want that. We have friends who say, hey, if what's the threat on the battlefield? They do that often. That's completely fine. If you are unable to assess the battlefield because it's confusing, there's too many cards, you're a newer player to commander, whatever, ask, and that's perfectly fine to help them. I just don't like when people are, every single player, like, you should be killing that, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. Just let them play for themselves. They're not going to learn if you just tell them to play every time.
First of all, you're extending the game artificially by at least 5 minutes when you keep doing this all the time. And second of all, it's okay if they make a suboptimal play, even if you had perfect information and could tell that's in a suboptimal play. But you don't, so you can't judge them for it. And don't ask questions after. It doesn't matter. Maybe they screwed up. It's fine. They're allowed to screw up.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I think that you personally made a mistake. And then move on. I literally, I think, the quote I said the other day was, I think you're making an inoptimal play by killing my thing. That said, I respect that you can do it.
Yeah, it's like, I respect that you can do this. I think stuff like that is just going to minimize this bickering and lead to a more fun experience.
And honestly, one of the best ways to have more fun is Maraschiello.com, which is the best deck building website on the entire internet. And I know what you're thinking. I've been using Redacted site for far too long. I can't go to something new. Maraschiello is so easy to use, intuitive. Just literally, if you go on the site, you make an account, you can just start deck building. It won't take you long. I bet you within 5 minutes, you'll be a master of this website.
Yeah, you say you can't do it. You say you've been on Redacted site for too long. We're already spicing up our decks. We're throwing new cards in Commander. We're trying to have new experiences. Get yourself a new deck building experience, and you'll realize it's like twice as fast, 3 times more efficient, and you're going to save money because you're going to find the best way to buy cards.
Maraschiello.com, honestly, amazing. And if you want to talk about fun, sometimes I just sit down, open my Maraschiello, go to my decks, and I just sit there and I look through my decks.
Watch them.
Well, I don't watch my decks. I put on, I look at the cards, I put them in visual grid, and I just look for cuts, adds, and I try and make my deck a little bit spicier using Maraschiello.com, honestly.
You can too. Next, we're going to talk about decisions you can make in deck building, more general statements before we get into actual tangible cards that are just going to make things more fun on average, and that's why Amber left, is because she always plays 12 lands and gets mana screwed every game.
Yes, and like I just said, I think that you build for fun and play to win. Obviously, there are things you can do that are playing for fun, and we just went over things that can make games more fun. But I think a lot of fun comes from what you do in deck building.
If you're genuinely curious about like tangible tips because you just want to make a deck power down or make it more fun, like this is what you're here for.
Yes, and this is the part that is extremely subjective. Obviously, lower power is not inherently more fun. So
true.
We're generally talking about powering down decks somewhat. So first thing, we don't want to play core strategies that extend the game. Stacks and chaos really extend games to go really, really long.
Like the whole point of the game, the strategy is kind of bleed your opponents dry for stacks, and chaos is really more of extending the game just by pure hand motion. It takes 5 minutes to resolve a spell, even if the spell is going to end the game. It's like, I don't want to resolve a Warp World. I would rather concede than resolve Thieves' Auction half the time. So some of this stuff just isn't going to lead to as smooth of a game as you think it will, and these stacks and chaos specifically look a lot more fun on paper, and I think that leads to hour and 25-minute games instead of what you want, maybe an hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And players just want to be able to play the game. I think specifically for stacks over chaos here, stacks specifically, they really slow down the game to a point that players sometimes often aren't playing. Things like stasis make the game slow to a glacial pace that is often not fun for most players.
It's funny at most one time, and that's really not funny one.
Exactly. It's Winter Orb too. It's just like these cards, they take the game to such a slow pace, and like these cards are rules zeroed out a lot. Like people don't put them in their decks often, but they are things to avoid and things to keep in mind while deck building, because every Urza deck that wants to be as powerful as it can should be playing Winter Orb. That's true. That's the truth. That card is busted in half.
Yeah, another thing I think you can do is to max out at 1, 2, or 3 board wipes. I really don't think you need to go past that, not only just for power, but for fun's sake. I think once you start going past that, you get to, it would be in your best interest and better for the whole game and everyone overall if you just had some more spot removal or had a nice 3-for-1 and you could keep your board state and attack people and bring the game closer to an end. But playing 7 board wipes isn't going to do that, and it's not even going to help you win a lot of the time because it's too many.
Yeah, I think that this it's a good point here, but obviously there are decks that want to play 4 or 5 board wipes. That those do exist. The point more is that board wipes, especially when they're coming in multiples, can really extend the game to a point of grindy, almost unfun. I run a minimum of 2 in every deck, and a high end I run 4.
What we think though, I think there's this distinction: the one-sided like synergy board wipes don't really fall in this category, I don't think, because they're not going to prolong the game. It's like, all right, take 17, take 35, or I win. Versus like if everyone was Damnation, it's like, please, your deck does not need this many Damnations in it.
Yeah, exactly. If you cast Ruinous Ultimatum 3 times in the game, it's not going to be slowing the game to.
You're going to win.
You're going to win, exactly. Ruinous Ultimatum so absurd, so over the top, so strong. It'll just win you the game.
Yeah, and seriously, I do not think you need more than 3 of these board wipes, especially not 3 just catch-all board wipes.
Yes. Next, we have limit counter spells. Now, this is very specific to play groups and very subjective. Some people don't care about counter spells at all. They are an integral part of the format. Let me be very clear. They need to exist. They're very important. They help keep the format balanced and a lot of things in control. That being said, they're often unfun. There is a big difference and a big feeling difference. This comes down to like
it's a tangible thing, and it's really weird because I don't have this, and I think Cherries does. Where if you cast Grave Titan and somebody counterspells it, that feels really bad, and it apparently feels worse for a lot of people than if you cast Grave Titan and then somebody destroys all 3 of your creatures that you just made.
Yeah, it definitely does feel different, and it is something that is hard to explain.
Yeah, because you end up with the same result, nothing.
Because there's a difference. Someone's explained. I can't remember what the wording is. It's permission versus
response or some reaction. I don't know.
Reaction. There's a better way to put it. But regardless, they are different in some way, and they definitely feel different. Now, if your play group has no problem with counterspells and nobody cares, play as many as you want. But I find it more fun when everything's not getting countered. I often find myself like a little more tense and a little more like not having fun when I know BZ or another player at the table is holding up a counter or 2. It's like
they can't be anticlimactic. So maybe I'd recommend the same thing. I would maybe try 2 or 3 counter spells and then have the rest switch out for spot removal.
Yeah, exactly. Like I play more spot removal. Usually I play 3 counter spells when I'm going to play counter spells because I don't like to be completely overloaded. Even if I'm playing free ones, I'm going to play 2 to 3.
Yeah, another one is avoid ham sandwich commanders or ham sandwich cards. These are either cards that combo with one other card and create this sort of, red alert mode in commander tables, or cards that if they're in play, the game is not going to be smooth for everybody else. We're talking Chulane, AC, Corval, do you get the idea? Kinnan, Prosper, Kodama of the East Tree. These cards just create 35 game actions every turn. And it's like definitely going to disrupt the time agreement that everybody kind of sits down for. And it's just going to make them instant targets to where maybe they're not in play and you're not having fun, or they're in play and opponents aren't having fun. So that someone's not having fun every time.
Also, I think all of these cards, you mentioned these are commanders. And I don't think almost any of them are a problem in the 99. They're strong, good cards in the 99, but I'm not worried about them. Like, they're strong. It's like, I need to kill Corval. When some random commander plays a Corval out of its deck, yeah, it needs to die. I need to kill Kodama of the East Tree, but I don't feel that rush or like, the absolute 100% style, like an AC and an AC deck. It's like an AC and an AC deck is going to draw 10 cards if it ever untaps.
If they untap with it, you should quit because it'll be faster than watching them destroy you. And it's just like these types of things I think are great to like recognize early and go, I don't think this is going to be the best experience for my play group. Cut them. And obviously, we're not telling you to not play Kodama decks. If you're looking to have more fun, these are the commanders I'd recommend avoiding.
Yeah, I the only one I disagree with on here is Prosper. I think Prosper does have those kind of turns sometimes, but I've seen the deck plenty of times, and it's really good. Don't get me wrong. Prosper's a great Magic card. It pops off often, but I've seen enough times to feel like it's much more fair than playing like the other ones listed here that are just silly.
Yeah, when you're deck building, there's also a fine line between introducing resources into the game and group hug. We're going to talk about the introducing resources in like fun and useful and selfish, we'll say, ways is actually really great for the game. But just introducing resources for the sake of doing so is actually, in our opinion, not great for the game overall. It's going to speed up. It's going to make the best deck stand out. The cream rises to the top.
The cream of the crop rises to the top.
Right. It's like you'll just lose faster to whatever the best deck happens to be or the biggest threats in the hands that are drawn. And it's just, be careful.
Yeah, I agree with BC. I don't like cards that are pure group hug. Now,
Rites of Flourishing is your go-to.
I don't like Rites of Flourishing. I think it's the card that decreases your own percentage more than any other card in Commander. I think the card is silly bad. And now people play it, and it is fun. And again, this is a group thing. This is a subjective thing. People love group hug. They find it super fun. Now, there are a lot of styles of group hug cards that, like, we'll get to those in a minute, but I don't like all of my opponents draw an extra card. I don't like...
The weird thing is what a cop-out for us to say, here's how to have more fun in your deck. Forget whatever deck you're playing. Just play random cards that say everybody draws 2 cards. Like, that's not what you're here for. You can build synergy and still progress your game plan while introducing these resources in a fun way.
Yeah, exactly. And if, again, this is subjective. Group hug is one of my least favorite archetypes. One of our friends plays it at our weekly Friday events, and that's okay. I don't complain. I just play, and sometimes I get the benefits of those resources, and I don't complain. I don't say, you're a poopy head, Liz. No, I don't do that. I just play the game and have fun.
Called out. All right,
take that, Liz.
Here's another good one. Yeah, increase variance in your deck intentionally. We're talking cut tutors. And this could be anything from like cutting Demonic Tutor and Grim Tutor to even like some of these more specific land tutors that aren't necessarily needed. It's just going to make it so that your deck feels more random. Because as we always say, tutors aren't actually any card in your deck. There are 5 cards in your deck. It's the best ramp spell, it's the best removal spell, it's the best board wipe, and it's the best proactive thing. And it's like, it's not anything else that's really going to decrease the mileage you get out of your deck in terms of seeing different cards.
Yeah, I think decreasing tutors is a great way to make your deck more fun to both play against and to play. When you're just searching up the same card every game and your deck is doing the exact same thing every game, it often doesn't even feel like Commander. It feels like, and now there's nothing wrong. If you enjoy competitive, like Modern, games can play out a lot differently, obviously, in Modern, but there's a more of a linear game plan. Your Murktide deck is going to try and play Murktide almost every single game and beat in with it.
I mean, how many times do we have to say this is subjective advice from us to you about how we think you can make your Commander decks more fun, and we're still going to get comments?
Probably at least 10 more times.
Yeah.
Because this is intended to be casual, and the 100-card singleton is one of the coolest parts of Commander. It makes games play out differently very often. Now, if you play the same deck 150 times, you will see games that are very similar, obviously, but it's so fun when sometimes, how did you win with your Henzi deck this game? Well, I mass reanimated. How'd you win the other game? I attacked with an Ancient Bronze Dragon on like turn 7 and got like 30 treasures and just won.
Yeah, I think another thing you can do is add 1 to 2 cascade spells, or at least search them all and see which ones can synergize with your deck. I know like Volcanic Offering comes to mind. There's a few other ones. There's a creature that gives your commander's cascade, which could be really cool. And I think adding these adds a little bit of like, ooh, like everyone kind of leans over and just goes. It's like a little mini game, a guaranteed surge of energy.
I do like it. I like cascade spells a lot.
I think they're really great.
It's funny because cascade was being talked about on Twitter recently. And people are saying it's one of the most boring mechanics because it leads to the same gameplay. Speaking of, they're talking about things like rhinos in Modern.
Playing no 2-drops or 1-drops so you cascade into free spells.
Every single time. And yes, I agree. In Modern, it can lead to very, very repetitive gameplay. That said, in Commander, it's random, it's fun, and it's silly.
It's great. And this is going to be another obvious kind of sounding tip, but some people still forget. Avoid boogeyman staples. We're talking Cyclonic Rift, Dockside, Smothering Tithe, Necropotence, Soul Ring, and just these cards that honestly decrease variance in terms of what is expected of me. Oh, it's these cards that can go on every deck. I think when you get away from that a little bit, you're going to get more like cards that make you read it like, what does that do? Or, huh? And it's still great for you. Good, nice, solid synergy pieces. I think it's been good for me. This doesn't have to be true for everybody, and we can probably just move on.
Yeah, these are obviously the cards that we're talking about are generally very strong, and you can put them in as many decks as you want. And again, if your play group has no problem with it, there isn't an issue. But yeah, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, the Docksides, these cards are amazing. They're incredible, and sometimes they feel like a snooze fest.
Yeah, they're nothing new, and sometimes if you want to make Commander games more fun, nothing new isn't going to add to that. Another one, let's go with facilitate interaction as a rule of thumb. Don't impede interaction. So more like do this, but don't say like you can't do that. Or destroy a creature, but don't play a card that says you can't play creatures.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big difference between that. I think that a good card that's an example of that is, so there's a lot of cards that you could just, destroy Terra Commander. But Drannith's Magistrate says they can't play their commander. It's a very strong Magic card. It's very good. But it's a card that's generally avoided a lot in casual circles because it's not fun.
It stops things.
It stops people from playing their gameplay, from doing it at all. This is also true of cards like Chemist Transformation that can do the same thing. Where they lock their commander on the battlefield. It's like if they don't have a way to take their commander off the battlefield, they're just stuck.
Right. So taking those cards out in favor of just more proactive, like, hey, I'm doing this, or you can do this, or this happens versus this can't happen anymore. No one can do this. Doing this is twice as hard.
And also this falls into no commander hosing, which is what we're talking about also. Don't just shut off somebody's commanders. It feels really, really bad to just go, you can't play your commander. And that stinks because you build a whole deck to play commander, and then someone tells you, again, subjective.
Yes, I still play those cards because we kind of have a mix of playing to win and playing for fun. But if you just want to add more fun, I would cut those cards in like 2 seconds. Voting cards probably can't play one in your deck. Just keep an eye out. I would recommend at least looking to see if there's a nice one that you can play, because some people forget that those even exist.
Yeah.
And no, Expropriate doesn't count.
Yeah, that's the best voting card.
Okay, this is my favorite part. This is like literally add these specific cards to your deck and games will be more fun, at least according to us.
Yes, exactly. Any individual card that adds either the Monarch mechanic or the Initiative mechanic to the game.
And we mean any one at all.
It doesn't matter. It can be the 4 mana 1/4 flyer from Baldur's Gate that adds the initiative. It'll make the game more fun, and honestly, it'll be more fun.
Yeah, it could be the 4 mana 2/4 Vigilance white common that makes you the Monarch. Just adding that mechanic into the game, first of all, you get your card back and you get resources back, so it's not like you're playing nothing. You're actually getting something. And it just adds this whole wrinkle to the game where now there's this subplot, and people are going to be attacking and conversing more. And it forces interaction because there's a huge benefit to getting it. And I just think it adds tension, and it really helps games go smoothly and have more like talking points or memorable moments.
Yes, both of those. You can also just, if you want something that people do, start with it in the middle. The first person to deal combat damage gets the Monarch / Initiative, and you can play like that. It's also a very fun way to go.
Yeah, another land that I try to play is, if I have any excuse, I'm playing Gyre Reach Sanitarium, because when you activate it proactively on the person before your end step, you go, all right, activate, I'm going to put a creature that I want in the yard, I'm going to draw a card, maybe I'll cast a Madness thing. But what it does is it kind of gives everybody else the same thing. We're going to lopside it so that we get the best, but it introduces resources to opponents where you can now, in the niche scenarios, is, oh, you're looking for a land drop or removal spell? I'll activate it. We all get to see a card. No one goes up any cards, and the game can move more quickly towards a goal.
This deck, something I like about Gyre Reach Sanitarium is it easily has synergy with a lot of decks too. If you have a graveyard strategy or you want to be discarding, this card is really, really strong in those kind of decks.
Yeah, and very specifically, not Miko Koro. I think there's a huge difference, and I would not play Miko Koro.
Miko Koro is Group Hug. Gyre Reach Sanitarium is...
It's the selfish advancement, but it happens to introduce some more resources.
Yes.
How about removal spells, Cherries?
Well, anything that gives out resources. Now, Beast Within is a little less this because the 3/3 is kind of nothing, and there's a lot of ones that give out 3/3, but I specifically like Chaos Warp, which is a fun little mini game every single time.
Tied to a good card.
How fun is it when they flip the same card?
It's hilarious. It is like the funniest thing ever, and it's like, also, there's no fault of the caster. It's like the perfect little mini game of cards, because Chaos Warp is great. It's a very good Magic card, and it can make the most funny, stupid results. Like, oh, that creature's better than what I hit.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun. Baleful Mastery is another one where you just go, okay, I will kill that creature and let somebody draw a card, and you can let its controller draw a card, or another player has a little political game to it.
It's just a nice extra wrinkle. Doomblade doesn't have that wrinkle, but Baleful Mastery can make a little friend, or get, and also exile. So there's utility. And there's a little bit of resources if you want. It's not even forced. these are in no order at all. But another one, play more MDFCs. I think if you just straight up, whatever your land count is, great. Whatever your MDFC count currently is, great. Just add 2 more MDFCs, and you're going to get mana screwed and mana flooded less.
Yes, MDFCs are just strong Magic cards, and they let your deck function smoother,
which is fun.
Oh my god,
they just create less non-games. You know, if you're stuck playing 2 lands and nothing else happens, that's not fun for you. So you just think about mitigating that while you're deck building, and it will literally happen less.
I could not agree with you more. MDFCs are they're so fun and good.
Yeah, and if you're the person who just can't add lands to the deck, this is for you. This is your way out. You get to play spells and lands.
Yes, it's literally both. Playing Eternal Witness in your deck, cut it for Skullwinder. That'll make the game a little more interesting, a little more fun. Make you some friends, add in some political fun.
Right. It's a weird 1-for-1 swap. Skullwinder, way worse card. But the minigame it creates, way more interesting. Much more interesting card.
Yeah, me and you get something, and we can make deals. We can be friends. You get
the exact same true as with Scheming Symmetry. Instead of a regular tutor, you can cut all your tutors and then just play Scheming Symmetry if you want to. It leads to more tutors as long as you're not comboing right away. That's a wrinkle in the game. You got to figure out, like, oh, what do they tutor for? Like, are we friends?
Yeah, I wouldn't play Scheming Symmetry in any deck where I'm going to be where I'm going to combo or my opponent's going to combo. I would probably avoid it in most. Well, I guess if I'm comboing, I'm going to play it. But if someone's going to get a board wipe or get their best card, I find that way more fun.
It's not going to be fun if the game's just over. So
yeah,
it's just going to be a good card if the game's over. Blade Griff Prototype's another one. If you're combat based or if you're kind of like having trouble destroying enchantments or whatever, this is a good card that does things and it makes your opponents converse and figure things out. It's like, can I hit you? Because we need to destroy that Vorinclex. Like, yeah, we do. All right, so damage gets dealt. The game, in a sense, is now more percentage close to being over, and the threat gets removed, and it's just this nice little package. It's great. It's also, this card profits you, and it profits every opponent individually, but not as a whole. It's good for you.
It's always good for you, and it's always bad for the table as a whole besides you, but it doesn't look that way.
It's very tricky.
It is very tricky. We also have Spectral Searchlight and Victory Chimes. These are both cards that let you add mana to your opponent's mana pool.
It could be very silly.
How many times does your opponent randomly ask you, is there any way you can give me a mana?
I'm 1 mana short.
Oh,
are you?
Oh, are you? How would you like to not be 1 mana short?
Victory Chimes I like a lot better because it exists for that sole purpose because you can use it on your turn, and then it just kind of untaps so you can just mess with people over and over. Spectral Searchlight, you got to give up the mana you want to make.
Yeah, exactly. I would what I would love to get out of Victory Chimes from an opponent one time is I would want to be like, I'm 1 mana short. If you give me that mana, I'll do you a favor. And then like with that mana, cast a giant Torment of Hailfire, but I added 1 more mana. It'd be so funny.
That'd be really, really good. You could even mix this fun, search for fun cards into like card draw. Your mundane stuff, we already talked about removal. Card draw, like Fact or Fiction, is a nice little minigame. It's a great card. It puts cards in your graveyard and your hand. You're probably drawing at least 2 cards on average. And it lets your opponent interact with you in the table because it's face up, kind of just like, whoa, all right, let's look at this Fact or Fiction pile. Let's take a 12-second break and resolve this card. And it's good for you, and it's good for the game.
100%. I love Fact or Fiction as a card. Like you said, it adds a minigame. It makes your opponents think, do stuff. They can all put their heads together because they are allowed to do that. It's just cool. It's a very unique card in Magic.
Yeah, and if you're playing like a Baleful Strix or a Muldrifter or something, you can swap it for like Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. It's kind of the same thing. It enters the battlefield and draws you cards, but it just throws a little bit of information and lets your opponent mess with you and leads to, those piles were, I should take the other pile. Just these interesting and memorable things that happen that is never going to happen with a Muldrifter. Sorry.
Oracle of Half-Truth is hilarious. It is that one is even more fun than Fact or Fiction because the face-up, face-down pile makes it so fun.
And we're not talking adding, we're not even adding minutes to the game. It's just, it takes like 4 seconds longer to resolve.
Yes.
And it's worth it.
Yes. All of the cards that say technique, the blank techniques.
Opponents copy them. You get 2 copies, they get 1.
Yeah, and it tends to just be super fun. I've actually really been enjoying playing the red technique. I think it's creative technique in my, whenever I cast things from exile, I get Wolf's Faildorn deck. And even that card's been super fun. It's like, sure, you get 1 thing for free, but I get 2 things for free.
I think literally all 5 of them are playable, can be good in the right deck, and create interesting board states. The white one is like, they could blow up your permanent, and you get 2 treasures. It's like, well, that's interesting. Also, you also have the option to just take the selfish road and not have anyone copy it. Incarnation technique. I'm the graveyard deck. I'm going to get a great thing, but my opponent's going to get something.
Yes, and the same is kind of true here for offerings, where you always get both halves of the offering, but you give out the other stuff to opponents. Like Benevolent Offering, a card we highly suggest all the time.
For power.
For power, yeah. You get spirits and you gain life, and then one opponent gets spirits and another one gains life. Or you can give it to both if you really want to make a friend. I love Sylvan Offering. That one's super good. That makes a giant tree. It makes a bunch of go-wide elf warriors.
Yep.
And then you give them out to the opponents where you think will help you the most.
Yeah, it's super sweet. The allocation of resources that you can go, oh, I'm trying to win. Like, I'm ready to just put the nail in the coffin. Here's end of turn Benevolent Offering. Give spirits to the person who I don't care about, and give life to the person who has no creatures. Great. Now I'm going to untap and try to win the game. Or, you're in the mid game. There's a clunky board state. It's like, hey, this person has no flyers. Here's some flyers. Let's be friends and start bashing this person in.
And if you've been a Magic player for a long time but need to get your friends in the game, here's a video on how to get your friends to play Magic with you.
It'll work.
Peace out, Tribe Scouts.